Let me say that I call it Kosova because 90% of the people that live there say Kosova, and that's why I use the A. Independence and self-determination is the only long-term solution. The Albanian Kosovars will never get a fair shake within Serbia. It's been proven time and time again, and I think our policy is fatally flawed because as long as we look to Milosevic as part of the solution, without understanding that he is the problem, not the solution, anything we come up with involving him is doomed to failure. Following this hearing, I and several other members will hold a press conference announcing my reintroduction of legislation calling for self-determination for Kosovo. And I wish we would get off this autonomy as if we think it'll work. Milosevic is the problem. He's the one who took away the autonomy. And for us to force the Albanian Kosovars to accept anything, even in an interim state, which was less than they had under the 1974 Yugoslav Constitution, to me is silly. Now, current drafts of the interim accord do not contain a mandatory referendum on the question of Kosovo's final status on a date certain, one where the Kosovars can vote for any option, independence, republic, autonomy, or whatever combination they wish. I'd like to ask you, will the United States press to include in the draft interim accord a mandatory referendum on a date certain at the end of the interim period, allowing full self-determination, including independence, to be voted upon by the people of Kosovo? Let me say again, we talk about borders not being able to be changed. When the former Yugoslavia broke up, borders were changed. The Croats, the Slovenians, the Bosnians, the Macedonians, all the other citizens of the former Yugoslavia had the right to self-determination and independence. Why are the Kosovar Albanians still denied that right? Why are they second-class citizens? Why must they be trapped behind borders in a so-called Serbia that has never given them a fair shake and never will? I'm wondering if you could comment on that, please.
Yes, I'd like to very much. First, with response to your specific question, the draft agreement that is now being negotiated is probably going to leave the question of how to determine Kosovo's final status open to further discussion for a whole series of reasons that I have set forward in response to earlier questions. Now, a referendum may or it may not be part of that particular process. It's premature, in our view, to speculate about how that particular issue will come out as between the parties 3 years hence. We would expect that any resolution of that problem would, as the interim arrangement does, take fully into account the rights of the people of Kosovo.
Doesn't this, in essence, give Belgrade a veto power at the end? I mean, I welcome the administration's getting involved and grabbing the bull by the horns now, because only when we did that in Bosnia did we make progress. So I welcome it. But aren't we giving Milosevic a veto? And let me just also say, Secretary Albright, in her recent speech at USIP, stated, and I'm quoting, "Neither the Serbs nor the Kosovo Albanians have ever fully met their obligations." This is just the sort of moral equivalence which the State Department is placing on the parties, and that bothers me. Not only have the Albanians not signed any agreements with us or the international community, they haven't killed 2,000 people, burned thousands of homes, created hundreds of thousands of refugees, or openly and brashly violated commitments to the West. So this moral equivalency between the Albanian Kosovars and the Serbs, to me, is very, very troubling.
Could I just say one thing in response to your statement that you've just made? Secretary Albright said in her speech that I think the important point here now is that we're not asking people to give up their dreams, as Ambassador Hill has said, but it is very important for them to focus on this interim period and to build what I think is, I guess once you're a political scientist, you're always political scientist, what I would consider a very high degree of self-autonomy.
Aren't we giving Belgrade a veto power over this at the end?
I would think not. If you would look at the set of circumstances under which this process is going ahead, the contact group has approved a draft. The draft has been set before Belgrade. In fact, draft can be changed if both parties are prepared to agree to changes. But Belgrade it has been made very clear to Belgrade that this is a draft that they will accept at the end of the time. The consequences for non-acceptance have been made very clear. The consequences for non-acceptance are the North Atlantic Council decision to threaten and to use air force if that's necessary.
What about the whole moral equivalency question?
I think that I made very clear that we have honored and respected the Kosovars' effort to find their rights through a long period of peace and through a long period of peaceful struggle. And we know and understand, as I had said several times in answers to questions, the fact that they were driven to use force to attain their rights, and we understand the reasons for that. And we understand the long and peaceful process of their struggle before they were, in fact, brought to do that.
Gentlemen's time has expired. One last question, and we'll wind up our hearing. Let me ask the panelists, why haven't we insisted that Milosevic be forced to comply with the international law and permit the War Crimes Tribunal access to Kosovo to independently investigate the massacres that occurred?
We have, Mr. Chairman, and it is part of the demands which we have put on the table.
I thank you. And I want to thank our panelists for being with us today and being patient. And I ask Mr. Gadenson for any...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we thank our panelists. It's obviously an important issue affecting American policy.
And we thank our members for standing by. The meeting stands adjourned.